We're here. So thank you so much. Good afternoon to anybody who is joining us live. Good morning to my guests. So my name is Krista Fairbrother, and I'm an aqua yoga coach and trainer. And I'm very excited to have a guest on with me today who's going to be talking to us about some strategies for dealing with hair loss in the pool. So Sheridan, if you would please introduce yourself and take it away.
Hello. Yes, my name is Sheridan. I am yoga teacher, yoga therapist. I'm also a person who doesn't have any hair. So I've had alopecia since I was about 7, and I live in Australia. Australia is very water oriented. We like to swim a lot. So this is something that I've kind of spent a lot of time thinking about, dealing with hair loss in the hair. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit about, like, that's the short story of it. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And I really appreciate your story and bringing that perspective to people in the pool, because it's something a lot of pool professionals don't think about. But the #1 barrier we often hear is, well, I don't want to get in the pool because of my hair. And it's more commonly like oh, I spent 4 hours in the beauty parlor, or I don't want to get it wet. But then there's a whole nother population who lives with these issues that they have some discomfort talking about. And I can talk about the journey of that. And you have a unique journey because you did it as a kid. I've had it as an older person, and then I deal with a lot of seniors who are dealing with it not until they're getting older yet. So I appreciate your journey, and hopefully some people, wherever they are on their journeys with it, will get something out of what you're going to share with us today. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because I don't want to, like, I'm showing up bald, and I want to be, like, I like that you mentioned that, because it's not just like hair loss when you're experiencing something that gets to maybe the extreme of having no hair at all. I think that hair loss, like, even my mom talks about it. She's like, as I get older, my hair is thinner. Mm-hmm. My hairline is different. And when you're putting yourself to be in water, it's like, I don't know, water is kind of like unforgiving in a sense. It's kind of like, there it is. Yes. So yeah, let's just normalize that hair loss, hair thinning, hair changing, it happens to probably all of us, like all women. Mm-hmm. And I think we don't really speak about it. It's kind of like the elephant in the room, and we just kind of, we see everyone with their hair that's better than ours, and we kind of just assume that they feel great about it, but possibly they don't. We just kind of don't. It's like a secret. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. When men have to deal with, it's very upfront for men, right? It's right there. Yeah. But for women, we don't necessarily talk about it, or we make assumptions about why people are losing their hair that aren't necessarily true. And then so we're not showing up with them for the full empathy that we could in terms of whatever their journey is, rather than seeing it as an opportunity for education and connection. We see it as a barrier, or maybe, oh, they're embarrassed, I don't want to talk about it. Or so I appreciate that you said that, hey, let's normalize it, because it is just part of life. And for most of the problems we're going to face, I try to have the attitude of, hey, it's better to have the problem because the alternative is elbows knocking wood, and at least I'm here and I get to show up and have the problem.
Oh my gosh, so true.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you said, like, having like the empathy or assuming, because I guess that's kind of the first thing that I would like to touch on, because we often have our own experience with hair loss, in that we either have no experience or we have a certain type of experience. Like, maybe, let's say Sally is embarrassed of her thinning hair. So when she sees Jennifer, and Jennifer doesn't have any hair, Sally might think, oh my God, poor Jennifer. Mm-hmm. Oh, poor Jennifer. Oh my God, I cannot even imagine if I didn't have any hair. Like, I would literally, that's the worst thing that could happen. Mm-hmm. But we don't know if Jennifer actually feels that way. So, and at the same time, if Jennifer feels really good about her hair loss and Sally feels not so good about her hair loss, like, we don't want to take Jennifer's story and just put it onto Sally. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own unique experience. So there's 2 things like that. It's when you're remembering to speak to somebody about it, remember just kind of maybe ask them. And it's refreshing because it reminds you that the story that you have and the feelings that you have about what your hair looks like or doesn't look like is one perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it could also be another perspective. And like we do this a lot in yoga. You can look at, I don't know, like we can look at a lunge from a point of strength, and we can look at it from flexibility. We can look at it from a point of self-study, reflection, going inwards. We can look at it from a point of, I want to make a certain shape with my body because someone's going to take a photo. Like there are all these different perspectives that we can adopt on the exact same thing. The thing doesn't change. Well, it might change very slightly, but it's the same thing. We just choose a different perspective, and it's I don't know, it's really freeing to be, like when I think about aqua yoga, I think it's nice because you're practicing the tool that's helping you adopt these bigger perspectives, and at the same time, that tool is inviting you to adopt the inner perspective, and they both strengthen the other and work together.
Yeah, that's a great analogy to bring it back to the poses, because I think that's what most people are most comfortable with and what most people think of yoga as, and forget that the whole larger school of yoga applies to every aspect. So those same tools you would use in your physical postures that you're probably pretty comfortable with if you've been a yogi for a while, those are the same things that help you when you start to develop other things that are maybe about your self-confidence or some of your internal self-speaking about yourself, self-referencing, or the other one is kind of that judging of others, like should you maybe stay in your lane, right? So the whole, am I looking at my own posture or am I looking at somebody else's posture and thinking, oh, maybe they could do something better? It's like, no, no, no. Same thing we would say about staying in your own warrior posture applies to this as well. So yeah, that's a great analogy, because I think people can really see that. Even if you haven't studied yoga philosophy, you can say, oh yeah, those tools I'm using in the postures can help me in other aspects.
Yeah, and staying in your own lane is really, really, really valuable, because you just, this is me, this is how I'm showing up, this is what I need, and almost like everything else is not bringing me any value.
Yeah.
And I can let it go. Like what she's doing over there, how she looks over there, what she isn't doing over there, it doesn't bring me any value, so can I just let it go? Sometimes I find, if we think a lot about like the ego mind, it can bring up these stories and it can kind of latch on. Sometimes it happens in a class. I know that, like, I was in a yin yoga class the other day. I was kind of having a day. I was just having a day, and it was not the greatest day. And she's doing this yin class, and I'm sitting there and I just could not stop criticizing her. Oh, she speaks too much. Why does she speak? What is that? Why is she sounds like she's singing? She doesn't articulate. And my mind is like doing all of these things because it wanted to run away from the sensation that I was having in my body. And we do this to like escape, and we can do it the same with hair loss. So if you notice that I think like if you notice that you're having anxiety about getting in the pool with your hair, or you're worrying about maybe what people could think, and you find yourself like, oh, but then what happens if this, and how can I control the situation, etc., etc. Well, I should feel, what if? Anything that has should or what if in the sentence tells you that you're moving into that anxiety, you're moving into the mind, and that's almost like a defense mechanism that we have because we don't want to deal with the sensations and the emotions that we're feeling. You might be feeling anger that you can't just go in the pool anymore like you used to with no worries. Maybe you're grieving that. Maybe you're sad. Maybe you feel shame because society for so many years has told you that you should look a certain way. So you've been socialized to feel shame in order to fit into that box. Yeah.
I think it's really similar to everything in below the water line. So we have that real distinctive vision when we get in the water. You know, there's what's below the water line and what's above the water line. And that's kind of what we started with in terms of the there's that anonymity of being in your suit, and it's like, oh, I might be a little self-conscious, like you're talking about, all that self-talk as I'm walking on the pool deck, but then I get in the water and I'm okay. But I can't do that with my hair. But everything you just said, those are the same tools you're using to think about, well, how comfortable I am in my suit. I'm applying those exact same tools to everything that's above the waterline. So
yeah,
important for people to think about if I'm trying to help people who already have a water practice see that the tools they already have are similar to the ones that you're talking about. Because if you're watching this and you don't have hair loss now, that's probably good. You're probably happy about that, but you may face this in the future, right? So as we started with, it's like, it's really so common and we're not normalizing it. And it gives you some tools to maybe help a friend who's dealing with this as well.
Yeah, because everything, if you think like everything that you're doing below the water, if you're having that same compassion and that same understanding and that same like curiosity, you know, when you're doing the yoga, you're not thinking like, oh my God, I have to do this and it has to look like this straight away. Well, we try not to teach you to do that. You're like, hey, like, what would happen if you pushed your leg in, like your foot against your leg a little bit more in tree pose? Mm-hmm. Or like, how would it feel to just extend up through your crown? There's a curiosity about it. And we can have that same curiosity with like, what am I nervous about? Like, mm-hmm. am I nervous about not fitting in? Am I scared that someone's going to say something? Do I believe that I'm not attractive? Am I nervous that Sally's going to tell the person? Are they going to tell someone? Mm-hmm. Like having that same, using that tool of curiosity and having that same curiosity, because if you're feeling like insecure about anything, literally anything, it can be hair loss, that's really specific one, but if you're feeling insecure, it's because there's a belief or a fear underneath that is in conflict with the secure part of yourself that knows that it's okay.
Excellent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just coming to terms with these things.
Yeah. And we have, like, our minds are so powerful. We can recreate beliefs, and we can go back and rewrite some of the ones that we picked up along the way and didn't totally realize that they weren't really that empowering. We really can do that, and we can. This sounds like, I feel really called to say this, but it sounds like, so sometimes I feel like it's a bit too much, but like we can literally be like a beacon of light to somebody else by just saying, I wanted to wear this, and this is how I look. Like, nobody looks at a woman who is standing in herself, confident in who she is, in her imperfections, and genuinely judges her. Mm-hmm. If they say anything to criticize her, it's because it's a reflection of how they feel about themselves and how they kind of wish that they could be like that. Mm-hmm. That person is always a leader and always an inspiration.
It's about the other person, not about you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Anything that anyone could ever think or say is about the other person and not about you. And I don't know, but like, maybe someone can relate, or maybe you can relate. Have you ever been in a yoga class and you feel like everyone else has just nailed their downward dog and you just have no idea what you're doing?
Yeah.
Or they're like, you're doing like some pose or like some breath, or like it's like a new breath practice and everyone else is exhaling at the right time and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is it 6?
Right.
And you're so worried
about it. I have arthritis, right? And so I have to consciously like not do what you're doing, but you don't know I have arthritis. So that whole judging and like, yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. And like,
many of us deal with that, but we don't have those conversations about, well, why? And yeah.
And no one cares about you as much as you care about yourself. No one's actually looking at you. No one notices when you exhale or what your knee is doing, or no one thinks, oh, she didn't do the next part of the pose. Like, oh.
No. Because everybody's actually having that same internal dialogue. It's like, oh my gosh, my dog is getting really here. I need to take my dog to the dog park. I need to exercise my dog. No, we're all having that same internal dialogue.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really so much. There is so much weight around it, and it just doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
It's just not.
It's just not there. So excellent. Well, Sheridan, I really appreciate you taking the time. And it is so early for you. Let you get about your day. But before we sign off, can you tell people how they can get in touch with you if they want to explore this more with you?
Yes. So you can find me on social media, Sheridan Ruth, SHERIDAN RUTH. If I'm on Instagram, it's _before and afterwards after my name, or just SheridanRuth.com. At the moment, we're doing enrollment for Acceptance and Confidence Ascension, which is for women with hair loss to find more acceptance and confidence and get rid of that self-doubt and all of that internal dialogue. So yeah, that's where you find me, and it's been really cool to connect with you.
Thank you for taking the time. I'll put those links in the comments, so those are easier to find. And have a great day. I really appreciate you taking the time. Om Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you soon.